Before we begin, I need to warn you the truth I'm about to share about love might break a small part of your heart, but if you're brave enough to hear it, it might also be the truth that finally sets you free. Sometimes the truth about love doesn't arrive gently. Sometimes it knocks on the door of your heart in the quietest moment of your life. And when you finally open that door, it whispers something you were never ready to hear. And the truth is this: sometimes the person you love will not choose you, not because you weren't enough, not because your love wasn't real, but because love, as beautiful as it is, does not always move in the direction we beg it to. And this one is going to hurt you, but you have to accept it. Sometimes love doesn't come to save us. Sometimes love comes to teach us a truth we were never ready to hear. And this one might hurt you a little, not because it's cruel, but because it's honest. There are moments in life when your heart holds on to someone you would fight for, wait for, sacrifice everything for, but deep down you start to realize something painful. Love doesn't always mean they will stay. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is accepting that their path was never meant to end beside yours. And I know, accepting that truth can feel like your heart is breaking in slow motion. But tonight, I want to talk to you about a truth many people run from, a truth about love, about letting go, and about finding the strength to accept what your heart never wanted to lose. Because sometimes the most painful lessons in love are the ones that set your soul free. And yes, this one's going to hurt, but you have to accept it. There is a quiet pain that lives inside many hearts, a pain that doesn't scream, doesn't demand attention, doesn't make a scene. It simply sits there patiently, waiting for the moment you are alone enough to feel it. It's the pain of loving someone who does not love you the same way. Most people don't talk about it. They hide it behind smiles, behind jokes, behind the brave words they use to convince the world that they're fine. But deep inside, they know the truth their heart has been trying to whisper for a long time. Sometimes the person you love will not choose you. You might meet someone who changes the rhythm of your entire world. Suddenly, the air feels different when they walk into the room. Your thoughts begin to revolve around them in quiet ways. You start noticing things you never noticed before. The way they smile when they're tired, the way their voice softens when they talk about something that matters to them. And before you even realize it, your heart begins building a small home for them, a place made of hope, a place where you imagine conversations that haven't happened yet, moments that haven't existed yet, a future that feels so close you could almost touch it. Love has a strange way of doing that. It turns ordinary moments into something sacred. A simple message from them can brighten your entire day. A small laugh shared between you can stay in your mind for hours. You start caring about them in ways that surprise even you. You want them to be happy. You want them to feel safe. You want them to know that someone in this world sees them, truly sees them. And when you love someone like that, you give pieces of your heart without even realizing it. But here is the painful part that most people struggle to face. Love does not guarantee that the other person will choose you. You can be kind. You can be patient. You can give your loyalty, your honesty, your support. You can stand beside someone during their worst days and believe in them when nobody else does. And still, they may look somewhere else when it comes time to choose who they want to walk through life with. That reality feels unfair when you first encounter it. Your mind begins asking questions that have no answers. You start wondering what you did wrong. Maybe you think you should have been more confident. Maybe you believe you should have spoken sooner. Maybe you start comparing yourself to the person they eventually choose, and slowly, that quiet pain begins to grow heavier inside your chest. But the truth that hurts the most is also the truth that sets you free when you finally accept it. Someone not choosing you does not mean you were not worthy of love. It simply means their heart was walking in a direction that did not align with yours. Hearts are strange things. They don't follow logic the way our minds try to. They move according to feelings that sometimes even the person carrying them cannot fully explain. That's why love can feel so beautiful and so painful at the same time. Because when you love someone deeply, you begin imagining a future that feels almost real. You imagine waking up next to them years from now. You imagine growing older together. You imagine the quiet moments where nothing special is happening, but everything feels right because they are there. And when that future slowly slips away from your reach, it feels like losing something that never even had the chance to exist. That kind of loss is difficult to explain. It's not like losing a relationship that ended after many years. It's something quieter, something more invisible. It's the loss of possibility, the loss of what could have been. And many people hold on to that possibility longer than they should. They wait for signs that may never come. They replay old conversations in their minds, searching for hidden meanings, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the story hasn't ended yet. Hope can be beautiful. Oh, but sometimes hope can also keep you trapped inside a place where your heart continues to bleed slowly. Because deep down, you already know the truth. You know when someone's eyes look at you with affection, but not with the kind of love your heart is offering. You know when their silence speaks louder than their words. You know when their presence in your life feels temporary, even though your heart wishes it could be permanent. Accepting that truth takes courage. It requires you to face the reality that love cannot be forced, convinced, or negotiated. No matter how deeply you care about someone, their heart must arrive at the same place on its own. And if it doesn't, you cannot drag it there. There is a quiet dignity in accepting that, a kind of strength that grows when you stop chasing someone who was never meant to walk beside you. Because love should not feel like begging. Love should not feel like trying to prove that you deserve a place in someone's life. Real love, the kind that heals rather than hurts, is something that chooses you as naturally as you choose it. It doesn't require endless persuasion. It doesn't leave you constantly questioning where you stand. It simply arrives and stays with honesty. But many people learn that lesson through heartbreak. They spend months or even years holding on to someone who keeps drifting further away. They keep hoping that if they love harder, care more, give more, eventually the other person will see what has been there all along. And sometimes that moment never comes. That's when the truth finally begins to sink in. The person you loved, the person you imagined a future with, was never going to choose you. And accepting that truth can feel like your heart is slowly breaking apart. But hidden inside that pain is something powerful: clarity. When you stop trying to convince someone to love you, you begin reclaiming the energy you once poured into chasing them. You start seeing things more clearly. You realize that love should never require you to shrink yourself, silence your feelings, or wait endlessly for someone who remains unsure. Your heart deserves a place where it is welcomed without hesitation, a place where your presence is not tolerated, but cherished, a place where someone looks at you and feels grateful that you exist in their life. And when you finally understand that, something inside you begins to shift. The pain doesn't disappear overnight. There will still be moments where memories appear unexpectedly. A song, a place, a random thought, and suddenly you remember the way you once felt about them. But those memories start losing their power over time, not because they stop mattering, but because you begin understanding that your story was never meant to end there. You were simply walking through a chapter that taught you something important about love, about yourself, and about the kind of connection your heart truly deserves. And slowly, the weight inside your chest becomes lighter. You start finding peace in places where pain once lived. You realize that loving someone who did not choose you was not a waste. Because the ability to love deeply, sincerely, without fear is one of the most beautiful qualities a human being can have. It means your heart is alive. It means you are capable of caring about someone beyond selfish reasons. And one day, when the right person enters your life, that same heart will recognize something different. It will recognize someone who chooses you without hesitation, someone who doesn't make you wonder where you stand, someone who meets your love with the same warmth, the same commitment, the same quiet certainty. But before that day arrives, there is a truth you must learn to accept. Sometimes the person you love will not choose you. And D, as painful as that realization may be, accepting it is the first step toward finding the love that will. Has a way of making promises inside our hearts that the world never actually made. When we fall for someone, we begin to believe something quietly, almost without noticing it. We believe that if the love is real enough, if the feelings are deep enough, then somehow the story will last forever. We grow up hearing stories about love that lasts a lifetime. Movies, songs, novels, they all paint a picture where love conquers every obstacle, and two hearts always find a way to stay together. And because of that, many people begin to believe a silent rule about love. If someone truly loves you, they will always stay. But life has a way of teaching us something different. Love does not guarantee someone will stay. Two people can care deeply about each other and still walk away from the same relationship. Two people can share memories, laughter, dreams, and still reach a point where their paths begin to separate. That reality is difficult to accept because when you give your heart to someone, you want to believe that the bond between you is strong enough to survive anything. You want to believe that the connection means permanence. But love, as powerful as it is, does not always control the choices people make. Sometimes people leave not because the love disappeared, but because life inside them changed. People grow, people struggle, people face fears they don't always know how to explain. And sometimes those changes lead them somewhere else. That moment when someone you love begins drifting away can feel incredibly confusing. At first, the distance is small. Maybe they respond less often. Maybe the conversations become shorter. Maybe the warmth that once lived in their voice slowly fades into something quieter. You notice it, but you try to ignore it. You tell yourself they are just busy. You convince yourself that things will return to the way they used to be. But deep inside your heart, there is a quiet awareness forming. Something is different. Something has shifted. And the more you try to hold the relationship together, the more you begin to feel like you are the only one holding it. That's one of the most painful experiences love can bring, feeling someone slowly slip away while your heart is still fully present. You keep showing up, you keep caring, you keep hoping that if you stay patient enough, loving enough, supportive enough, they will remember what you once meant to each other. But sometimes they don't come back to that place. And when that truth becomes impossible to ignore, it breaks something inside you. Because leaving doesn't always happen with dramatic arguments or loud goodbyes. Sometimes people leave quietly. Sometimes they simply stop choosing the relationship the way they once did. And that silence can hurt more than words ever could. Your mind begins searching for explanations. You ask yourself questions late at night that have no clear answers. Was I not enough? Did I miss something important? Could I have done something differently? But the painful truth is that love cannot always prevent someone from walking away. A relationship requires two people continuously choosing each other, not just in the beginning when everything feels exciting and new, but during the difficult moments, the confusing moments, the moments when life becomes complicated. And sometimes one person stops choosing, not always out of cruelty, not always out of lack of care, but because something inside them has changed. Maybe they realize they want a different life. Maybe they are carrying wounds they don't know how to heal. Maybe they are afraid of commitment. Maybe they simply feel their heart moving in a direction they cannot explain. Whatever the reason may be, the result feels the same. The person you loved, the person you believed would stay, is no longer walking beside you. Accepting that reality can feel like trying to breathe underwater. Every memory suddenly becomes heavy. You remember the moments where you both promised to be there for each other. You remember the way they once looked at you as if you were the most important person in the room, and your heart struggles to understand how something that once felt so strong could slowly fade away. But love is not a contract. It does not force someone to remain where they no longer feel aligned. That doesn't mean the love you shared was fake. It doesn't erase the moments that once made both of you happy. It simply means that love alone cannot always hold two people together forever. And learning that truth is one of the most difficult emotional lessons a person can experience. Because when someone leaves, it often feels like they took a part of your heart with them. You begin to feel empty in ways you never expected. Ordinary days become quieter. Places that once felt special suddenly carry a strange sadness. Even simple things like hearing a certain song or walking past a familiar street can bring back memories that make your chest tighten. For a while, it may feel impossible to imagine loving anyone again, not because you don't believe in love anymore, but because your heart is still holding on to the space where that person once existed. But slowly, something important begins to reveal itself. The love you gave was never the problem. Your ability to care deeply was never the mistake. The only mistake would be believing that someone leaving makes you unworthy of love. Because it doesn't. People leaving says more about their journey than it does about your value. Every person carries their own fears, desires, dreams, and struggles. Sometimes those things lead them away from the people who once meant everything to them. And while that reality hurts, it also reminds us of something important. Love must be freely chosen again and again. It cannot survive on memories alone. It cannot rely only on the feelings that existed at the beginning. Two people must continue showing up for each other. Two people must continue deciding that the relationship matters enough to nurture and protect. And if one person stops making that choice, the relationship begins to weaken no matter how deeply the other person still cares. Understanding that truth doesn't remove the pain immediately. There will still be moments where you miss them, moments where you wonder what your life would look like if they had stayed, moments where your heart quietly wishes things had turned out differently. But over time, another realization begins to grow. Someone who truly wants to stay in your life will find reasons to stay. They will not disappear during difficult moments. They will not treat your presence like something optional. They will value the connection enough to protect it. Real love is not just about feelings. It is about consistent choice. It is about showing up even when life becomes messy. It is about deciding that the person beside you is worth the effort, the patience, and the commitment that relationships require. And when someone stops making that choice, holding on to them only prolongs the pain. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is accept that their chapter in your life has ended. Not because you stopped loving them, but because you finally understand that love alone cannot make someone stay. That acceptance can feel like letting go of something incredibly precious. But it also creates space for something new. Space for healing, space for growth, space for the kind of love that does not make you question whether you are truly wanted. Because the love that is meant for you will not constantly leave you wondering where you stand. It will not feel like you are trying to convince someone to remain. It will feel steady. It will feel mutual. It will feel like two hearts choosing each other not just once, but every single day. And when you finally experience that kind of love, you will understand why the ones who left could never stay. Because the right person doesn't stay out of obligation. They stay because their heart has already decided that your life is where they belong. There is a moment in every deep love story that nobody prepares you for. It's not the moment when you fall in love. It's not the moment when you feel butterflies in your chest or when the world suddenly feels brighter because someone special walked into your life. It's the moment when you begin to realize that holding on is hurting you more than letting go ever could. And that realization is one of the hardest things a heart can face. Because when you love someone deeply, your first instinct is always to stay, to fight, to hold on to every small piece of hope that tells you the story is not over yet. You replay memories in your mind, The way they once laughed with you, the way their eyes looked at you during quiet moments, the promises that were spoken when everything felt certain and warm. Those memories become powerful. They make you believe that if things were beautiful once, they can be beautiful again. So you stay. You stay even when things start to feel different. You stay even when the effort becomes one sided. You stay even when the silence between you grows heavier every day. Because your heart keeps whispering the same question: what if they come back? What if tomorrow they realize what we had? What if I walk away too soon and lose the chance to fix everything? Hope can make a person incredibly patient. Sometimes it keeps people standing in places where love has already quietly disappeared. And that's where the pain begins to grow. Because the longer you stay in a place where your love is no longer being met with the same energy, the more you begin losing pieces of yourself. You start adjusting your expectations just to keep the connection alive. You accept less communication than you deserve. You accept less effort than you once hoped for. You tell yourself that love requires sacrifice, and sometimes it does. But love should never require you to abandon your own worth. The painful truth many people discover too late is that love cannot survive when only one heart is carrying the entire weight of the relationship. Two people must hold it together. Two people must care enough to protect it. When only one person is trying, the relationship slowly turns into something exhausting rather than something beautiful. And yet, letting go still feels impossible. Because letting go doesn't just mean releasing the person, it means releasing the dreams you built around them. It means accepting that the future you once imagined together may never exist. It means admitting that the love you believed would last forever has reached its end. That kind of acceptance feels like grief. Not the loud kind of grief that the world immediately notices, but the quiet kind that visits you at night when everything else becomes silent. You think about the things you wish you could say to them. You remember the moments when everything between you felt perfect, and your heart wonders if you are making the right decision by walking away. But here is the truth that slowly reveals itself when you look honestly at your situation. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go. Not because you stopped caring, not because the memories suddenly lost their meaning, but because love should never trap someone inside constant pain. Real love includes respect. Respect for the other person's choices. Respect for their freedom to follow the path their heart is leading them toward. And just as importantly, respect for yourself. Holding on to someone who has already emotionally stepped away does not keep love alive. It only keeps the wound open. You remain stuck in a place where your heart continues hoping for something the other person may no longer want. And slowly that hope begins to drain your energy, your confidence, your peace. Letting go changes that. Letting go is not weakness. It is one of the bravest decisions a person can make because it requires you to face a painful reality instead of hiding behind false hope. It requires you to trust that your life can still move forward, even without the person you once believed you couldn't live without. At first, the space they leave behind will feel enormous. You will notice their absence in small moments. When something funny happens, and you instinctively think about telling them. When you hear a song that reminds you of a memory you shared together. When you walk past a place where the two of you once spent time talking about dreams and plans for the future, those moments will sting. Your heart will need time to adjust to a life where they are no longer part of your daily thoughts, but something beautiful begins to happen during that healing process. You slowly start rediscovering yourself. When you stop focusing all your energy on someone who has drifted away, you begin reclaiming the parts of your life that were waiting quietly in the background. You reconnect with the things that once made you happy. You spend more time with people who genuinely appreciate your presence. You learn that your happiness does not have to depend on one person choosing to stay. That realization is powerful because it reminds you that your life is bigger than any single relationship. Your story is still unfolding. Your future still holds moments you cannot even imagine yet. And somewhere ahead of you, there are people who will see your heart and value it the way it deserves to be valued. People who will not make you question whether you matter to them. People who will not require you to fight endlessly for a place in their life. When you meet those people, love begins to feel different. It feels calm instead of confusing. It feels mutual instead of one-sided. It feels safe instead of uncertain. But none of that becomes possible if you keep holding on to someone who has already walked away emotionally. Letting go is what opens the door for new beginnings. It is what allows your heart to heal from the pain of loving someone who could not stay. And eventually you reach a moment where you look back at the relationship with a quieter heart. The memories no longer feel like knives cutting through your chest. They feel like distant chapters in a story that helped shape the person you became. You understand that loving someone who could not stay did not make you foolish. It made you human. It proved that your heart was capable of deep connection. And one day, that same heart will love again, but this time with greater wisdom. You will recognize the difference between someone who simply enjoys your presence and someone who truly values your soul. You will recognize the difference between temporary affection and lasting commitment. And most importantly, you will remember the lesson that once felt so painful to learn. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not holding on. Sometimes the greatest act of love is having the courage to let go of someone who cannot walk the rest of the journey with you.